round is going to be Gerry Thompson with a mono red aggro deck. Little bit, I don't know, a little slower. I'm not sure I can call this a mid-range deck. I still feel like this is an aggro deck.
It's not a mid-range deck, but it's a mono red aggro deck that has some 3-drops and 4-drops. It has Flamewake Phoenix into Thunderbreak region, and it's doing completely the Goblin Rabble Master like Hordling Outburst plan. So this is actually
cannot make a token.
I actually think this is just a burn deck. Now that I think about it, it's got Monastery Swift Spear, Eidolon of Great Rebel, lots of burn spells, and then phoenixes and dragons that bolt you if you touch them. So I think that what it is trying to avoid is getting stopped by a card like Courser of Krufix much more than the other red decks.
So 14 creatures in the deck, but all of them double as burn spells.
Yeah.
They're either hasty in the case of Berserker Zergo with dash even, or they hurt.
Yeah, this is a lot more like a burn spell. Every card can essentially be a Lava Spike.
Oh, 18 creatures. I forgot the Eidolons. But
I mean,
feels like
there's no card in Gerry's deck that can't deal damage the turn you play it. Like Eidolon of Great Rebel essentially does because they cast something on their turn. All the other creatures either have dash or, like Thunderbreak, again, punishes them for doing something. So that's kind of interesting. And Gerry, he does have Titan Strength. Paul blocked with Sylvan Caryatid there. I assume not thinking about Titan Strength, because who would? And did not get punished. It's one of those instances where if Paul had the deck lists, he actually may not have blocked there, but it's better for him that he didn't.
Funny. So Satyr Wayfinder digging. He's got a Haven. I couldn't see if he spilled anything relevant, but mostly.
It's funny, Sylvan Caryatid into Satyr Wayfinder with Obs on lands looks like a normal deck, like an Obs on like Megamorph deck or Obs on Control, whatever. But then you play a Haven and mill a Dragon Lord, like looks like a Dragon Lord Silumgar, and all of a sudden the jig is up. Now it's like, oh, this is what's going on. Of course, that enables Murderous Cut, which conveniently enough gets around Eidolon.
True, it's a 5-mana spell.
So it looks like Paul's deciding whether he wants to play a Sylvan Caryatid or keep Murderous Cut up in his. It's actually pretty interesting because if Paul draws an untapped land, he could play Dragon Lord Dramoka on turn 4 and kind of end the game. But I think he's still doing okay here. What he needs to do is not block the Swift Spear this turn. He could block the Eidolon of Great Revel if he wants, but if he blocks the Swift Spear, Wild Slash gets cast and the Sylvan Caryatid dies, and that would be pretty bad for Paul.
Well, looks like Searing Blood took out Wayfinder. Here come the attackers and Murderous Cut on.
I assume the Eidolon. Right? Otherwise, you would just block the Eidolon here.
Yeah.
And Eidolon is just going to deal more damage overall. Paul does want to cast Caryatid, maybe Den Protector. Morphs have a converted mana cost of 0 on the stack. So now Paul can set up casting Dragon Lord Dramoka. He did get Wild Slash essentially for 3 there. So Paul's 1 point above the burn spells in Gerry's hand, but Gerry only has essentially 2 more draw steps to find another burn spell. So this is a close game. Both decks had good draws.
Yeah, this 5-color Dragon Megamorph deck that Paul Cheon is playing, this put both Makihito Mihara and Yuya Watanabe into the top 16 of Grand Prix Shanghai last weekend. Couldn't quite break through to top 8, but deck looks sweet.
So Gerry going to attack
Blood. Nothing to target.
No, and I don't think Paul's going to play a relevant target until Dramoka comes down. Though Gerry actually can burn out the Dragon Lord. If he draws a land, he can go stoke Lightning Strike, which is not where you want to be. And in fact, he might still just stoke end of turn, or rather in response to the Dragon Lord coming down. But Gerry also had the option there. He could Lightning Strike Paul and Searing Blood his own Monastery Swift Spear, and that would have built it up to a 3/4 there.
There is Dragon Lord Dramoka.
So Gerry has to decide, do you let it resolve and hope to draw a land to burn it away, or do you just cast Stoke in response, put Paul to 4, and then if you draw Wild Slash or Lightning Strike, you win the game, or Stoke the Flames. So it's up to Gerry's now probably looking at his deck list. He's got, looks like 3,
time for some math.
4, 5. He's got 8 outs. That's not a ton of outs, honestly. So I think that, the safer play certainly is to hope to draw a mountain. That's because, he's got 17 of those left. But that doesn't win you the game, though. So I think it's a lot stronger to just go for the win, even though you're only on 8 outs. But I think that's better than that. Oh, actually, never mind. You're on 10 outs or 11 outs. Monastery. Oh, wait. No, it doesn't quite do it. You can attack with both.
Yeah,
but you can't Searing Blood your own Swift Spear when he blocks it, so it doesn't actually do it.
Yeah, so you can attack. The dragon can obviously block, and with lifelink, it would gain Paul a bunch of life. That means you can't attack. If he could kill his own Swift Spear, then it would be okay. He'd be perfectly willing to suicide it in as long as there was no life gain. But Searing Blood will trigger prowess.
And he's a mana short also of casting Strike and Blood anyway, so it looks so close. It looked like for a second I was like, oh, that does it. No, that does not do it. So it looks like Paul's turn 5 Dragon Lord with off turn 4 Murderous Cut. I mean, that's a good start.
So close.
That's the start you need to beat Mono Red, apparently. I mean, it's not like Gerry loses the game after one hit, but it becomes very, very difficult for him to win. He can still... Oh, Ephros points out he can still attack and then point both burn spells at Jamoka. Yep. Yeah, that's better than nothing, I suppose. It's not really where you want to be.
Yeah, he loses essentially 3 cards, and Paul gains the 5, so he's sort of up 2 life from the
series. So yeah, Paul ends up at 6, and Gerry ends up with a Swift Spear in hand, which is probably better than just conceding the game.
By the dragon. But yeah, I think that's what Gerry's decided he has to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's Searing Blood. And here's Lightning Strike. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8. Down goes Dragon Lord Dromoka.
Paul goes to 6. And then Paul can... He's a couple options here. He can play like Courser plus Den Protector. He can just slam Ojutai. He's at 6. Gerry has 1 card in hand. He knows it's not a cheap burn spell or a Stoke. He knows it's not a burn spell because otherwise he would be dead last turn. So, but I think playing Courser is certainly the safe play. Every life you gain puts you that much further away from just the combinations Gerry can assemble to kill you. Yeah, and then you get to play face down. Yeah. And I think playing... Oh, you could actually just pass and use Haven. That's even better. So yeah, so 1 turn away, the Wild Slash.
Wow. Close.
So now Paul gets to use Haven to get back the Dragon Lord Jamoka and then play Dragon Lord, and then that presumably just ends the game. Gerry can't assemble enough burn spells because the 1 life off Courser means that Stoke plus Wild Slash doesn't quite do it. The next life off Courser also will help.
How many Dromokas are actually in this list? That seems like a key card. 2?
He had 2 in the main deck and 2 in the main deck.
Yeah, he's got more life gain in the sideboard. He's got 2 Faltongs, to be fair.
2 Faltongs and a Courser, and then some Drown in Sorrows in the sideboard.
Yeah, Faltong now on top of his library, and yeah, very close. Gerry Thompson almost got him, but Paul was able to accelerate into Dragon Lord Dromoka just in the nick of time.
Oh, actually, it looks like Paul has 1 more Dragon Lord Jamoka in the sideboard.
Oh, all right. So he gets to go up to 3, and he goes up to 4 Faltongs. He brings in another Courser as well, I would think.
For sure, and then Drown in Sorrows. So, and Bioblights, and Ultimate Prices. It's funny that he didn't know that Drown in Sorrow is going to be a lot less effective against Gerry's deck than it is against like the normal mono red decks, but you still bring it in here, I would imagine, given the cards he saw especially.
Sure. So how many of these cards is he not bringing in? The Crux and the Silumgar? I mean, Self-Inflicted Wound, does he bring in 12?
He probably doesn't bring in Duress. I mean, he could if he's got enough cards. I mean, that Duress is good against a burn deck. You don't really need all your Den Protectors, and you don't really need some of the... Basically, the only Dragon Lord you really want is Jamoka. So I could see a pretty massive sideboarding plan here.
I mean, these cards aren't in the sideboard just to hang out and watch. So what does come out? A bunch of Dragon Lords, Thought Seizes, Downfall?
Downfall's not great against red. I mean, Thoughtseize is clearly not good. Downfall's not great against red in general. It's actually a little better than normal against Gerry's list just because it has Thunderbreak region in it. But even then, you don't really want... Your answer to Thunderbreak is play a bigger dragon. It's not to take 3 and tap out to kill their dragon.
Right. Also, Paul doesn't even know about Thunderbreak yet. I would assume you want the whole Wayfinder, Den Protector, Death Disruptor package. You just want...
Yeah. You maybe don't need all the...
that don't gain life?
You would take out... I would imagine you take out some of them, but you do want your Foul Tongues to be on. You also... I don't think you need necessarily all the Death Raptor and Den Protector engine. Like, some amount of that is probably not necessary. You have a lot of better cards to cast for those mana costs. Like, Den Protector grinding out your opponent is not really how you're going to win the game, usually. And so one thing to note about this deck is Paul's not playing Crucible of the Spirit Dragon, and I think that makes sense. This deck is not going to spend time activating it. It's not like, the blue deck that has a bunch of counter spells and instants that it can just keep passing and using it. This deck is just tapping out to use its Den Protectors and Wayfinders and all that stuff over the course of the game.
Got it. So 4 Dragonlands, not 8. All right. Well, there's still Ojutais in the deck, so we didn't take out all the dragons. But I'm with you. That does make sense.
Yeah, you need some amount. This is the cheapest one, so that makes sense to keep it.
He's got what? Carry added into Foul Tongue and Drown?
Yeah, that's a great hand. Gerry looks like he molds.
No lands in his 5-card hand?
Yeah. No, he's on 7 still. I think that's...
Oh, we're just missing them on our...
It's just moving. Yeah.
Yeah, it's his whole hand.
Oh, never mind. So... Looks like Gerry is not going to be doing a whole lot. Oh, okay. I see. There's a little bit of lag.
The hands were up to date, but Magic Online was having problems. So
Gerry kept, I think, a 1-lander though, with double Monastery Swiftspear. And
yeah, we'll get those guys to pause and wait for us to get Magic Online relaunched.
Double Swiftspear does not fare well against Drown, and Gerry taps out. Obviously, if you have a Wild Slash up, that's very different.
So we've looked at Paul's deck list. Maybe we can get Gerry's up. Sideboarding change anything here?
Doesn't look like Gerry has any cards, so no, not really.
I think this is by far the least number of lines that deck list has taken up in SSL.
Oh, yeah.
The only one of is in the sideboard. There's only 5 different in the sideboard, and there's only, 3, 6, 12 different cards in the main deck.
It's like, this is...
Yeah, 10 with 20. Does give you a certain amount of consistency. I always feel like the 4s and the 3s make me feel like you figured out what your good cards are. I see so many deck lists with lots of random 1s and 2s, and I wonder if you're really sure you got this figured out yet?
I actually feel the opposite. I feel like when I first build a deck, I use a lot of 4s, and then as I play it more, I tune it to better numbers. So when I see a deck of all 4s, it often feels less tuned to me than a deck that has a bunch of 2s and 1s. But I think that depends on the style of deck, too.
Yeah, that's certainly true. I mean, if you've got decks that are going to take a lot of turns, then having access to one of this 2 or this 3, that can matter.
Yeah. I agree with you, actually. As I tuned the Esper list more and played it more online, I did gravitate towards 4 of a lot of the different cards that I started with 2 or 3 of.
Yeah, you're like, Foul Tongue is just one of the good cards, right? I want 4.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is how
and Thoughtseize also became a 4 of, too, eventually.
Sure. All right, so we are back. Couple of Swiftspears and a couple of lands for Gerry. So he's down cards, but he's able to play at least. So
Gerry playing around John and Sorrow quite nicely here by leaving. You notice that in game 1 he opted to Wild Slash Paul when a Swiftspear went unblocked to deal an extra point. Here he's not doing that. I'm sure because he's well aware that John and Sorrow is a card.
Smart.
I still like casting Drown here though. If Gerry doesn't have the spell, obviously you just win the game. And if Gerry does have the Wild Slash, then you still killed Lightning Berserker, and you made Gerry use a Wild Slash.
Right. So you would cast Drown over the Foul Tongue here?
I think so. If casting Foul Tongue is so much weaker than killing a Lightning Berserker or whatever, or even Swiftspear if Gerry doesn't want it, is a lot weaker than going Windswept Teeth, tap your 3 lands to cast Drown. It also lets you scry for 1 to try to hit a land and maybe play an Ojutai.
I'll buy that. So you're going to play the fetch land bracket first?
Oh, no, you can just tap it because of the Urbog.
Got it.
I still need the Urborg graphic next time I do coverage. Oh, that was a big draw. So Paul decided not to cast Drown. He's gonna Foul Tongue, but he might actually block Swift Spear this turn since it did go wrong last turn, but Gerry drew the Titan Strength.
All right, Foul Tongue Indication revealing. I didn't see which dragon he revealed. I'm going to guess it's a Vegetai. This Dromakus feels like more important information. But yeah, Caryatid blocks Swift Spear.
Yeah, I really don't like not casting Drown here. Even if you think Gerry has a Wild Slash, even if I knew he had it in his hand, I would be happy casting Drown there.
Did he Titan Strength the unblocked Swift Spear? Oh yeah, because then he can Wild Slash as well. So Caryatid goes down and he deals 6-8 extra damage.
Well, the advantage of this is that
Paul convinced him he didn't have Drown.
Yeah, Paul was able to conceal that he had Drown, and he drew a Skyline for his turn as well. So now things are going really well for Paul.
Yeah, Paul by sandbagging that turn, Gerry moved in. Just like clearly the guy doesn't have Drown, or he would have cast it.
Exactly. That worked out.
You still don't like it?
I still think I would Drown, and then force Gerry to have Wild Slash, and when he did, I could still block the Swift Spear and then have Foul Tongue to kill 2 Foul Tongues to kill 2 Swift Spears. But this did work out better. I will admit that.
All right, here is Phoenix is going to run into another Foul Tongue. Paul's going to gain 4 life. He's gained 8 life this game, which seems kind of gigantic.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
13 and 5.
So Paul gets to cast a Dragonlord Ojutai while still at millions of mana, try to find an untapped land to cast Dragonlord Jamoka, and then just kind of end the game. Though Gerry can't kill the Dragonlord Ojutai here, but Jamoka's coming down. Actually, what Paul wants to do... No, you're supposed to cast it first. If you cast it first there, then it's so much better.
Sure. Basically, he turned off Hexproof when he could have said, you know spells on my turn before he turned off Hexproof.
Yeah, there's no real reason to do it that way, but...
I don't mind trading Ojutai when you have another one in your hand for 2 burns, though. Isn't that actually okay?
Well, I think just it would be better for Paul to not do that because Paul can't get burned out, really. There's just no combination of 3 cards that Gerry could have with the amount of mana. He had to burn Paul out from that turn.
Yeah, so. Well, with Gerry having sunk all his burn spells into the Ojutai, Dragonlord Dromakus is going to end this, just like Dragonlord Dromakus ended game 1. Giant life-linking dragons. Turns out, pretty good against mono red.
Yeah, and, for being a 5-color deck, Paul did have a deck that is decent against a deck full of, a mono-red deck. And Gerry was playing a tuned mono-red deck that didn't look quite as good against dragons as it would have against, a more mid-range deck where Thunderbreak region's actually a trump.
Sure. Now, I would like to, do we try a winner interview here, or are our audio problems too terrible? What do you think?
If we're still suffering massive desync, then I don't think an interview is great, but we can try it.
All right, let's see if we can talk to Paul. Definitely want to.
Yeah.
All right, let's not talk to Paul. Let's
just
take a quick break, and we will get Tom and Owen set up for semifinal number 1. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.